So one of the other errors I made during disassembly was when I was taking this rod out, this guide rod. I had a hard time getting this out, and once I got it out, I realized why. It's because this nut is actually a jam nut. So the idea is that you're supposed to back off this jam nut, and then that would allow you to unscrew this a lot easier through the Allen head. And then once you put it back in, you tighten the jam nut down to keep this from being able to move. Now, that being said, I think this might be an adjustment. I'm not positive, but I think it might be an adjustment. So I'm kind of glad I didn't mess around with this, that I ended up turning this with this as one assembly. So the jam nut is still in the same position as when I took it out. So what I did was I took my my little depth gauge here and I set it. So taking a measurement from the top of the head down to the top landing of the nut right there, I keep that set, and then that way now I can remove this nut from here. And the reason why I want to do that is because, interestingly enough, there isn't really enough clearance to get this in. So I'm surprised I was able to do this before, but the problem is the nut actually hits the head right here. So I can't quite get that it's hard to get it started. Take the nut off, or just loosen the nut way far, right? Then I will be able to get this in no problem, and then have the nut attached to it. And I've got to find this seal in the kit. So before I screw the guide pin in, I need to put this in, and there's this spring goes down inside here I can't forget about. I also want to mention that this spring right here on the metering valve actually rides on top of this. Alright, I'm going to set that depth in a minute. First I want to make sure I can get the throttle linkage in okay with that spring. Alright, so my video card filled up on me. So I'm not sure exactly what point I was at, but just to recap, I ended up figuring out that I wasn't able to get this all in with the rod in, and then I had it actually together and it was kind of stiff, so I decided to take it back out. And what I did was I used a small one of these type of cleaning brushes and cleaned out these ports better, and then I put some grease, put just a little bit more grease on this shaft where the O-rings are. And then I gotta make sure that, again, make sure that spring is in there. Yeah, it's gonna fall out. Yeah, put a little dab of grease on the spring just to keep it from falling out when I tilt this back to get this to happen. There we go. Ah, you dummy. Got the return spring. Okay. This time, I really think I do finally have this in all correctly so that I can get this pin in, and once again this little hair spring goes on top of the pin, and the pin goes into here, and just get that just started. And again, I'm not gonna drive that home just yet. I am going to now get the other end of this spring into position. Ow! Oh, that just went under my fingernail. That did not feel good at all. There we go. Now I got it. That's still, it seems to me like that should, it does not seem to move as freely as I would like it to. But then again, we've got a big spring on here, I believe, for the return also, right? So, it is what it is. Alright, so now I got my depth gauge set to where I wanted this. That's actually pretty close. I've got my eyeglasses upstairs, so how do I know? Okay, I got this set to the depth that I want it, so hopefully that'll be close enough. On the other side of this rod, originally there was this nylon washer. The kit did come with a new washer just like that one, so I'm going to use that right there. Now I'm going to install this cylinder. This side that only has the one small hole in it faces the side that has the plug that doesn't have a hole in the middle, and the hole faces towards the front. I'm going to line up this hole here with the hole in the cam ring, and this part right here drops in. So the part that's got almost like a ball shape to it, it's got a little bit of a curvature, opposite side of this little pin that sticks up. That has to go down into that hole. And actually I'm going to put a little bit of oil on that. And so the way that works is that as this cylinder moves back and forth, because that pin is down in that hole on the cam ring, it actually adjusts the position of the cam ring, which will affect the timing. Alright, so this is the point I was at when I realized that I had inadvertently put this part inside the internal part of the pump where it doesn't belong. So this little thing here, where I remember now, there's a groove here that looks like it's for an O-ring, but it's not. On this little thing, that actually goes down inside here. Well, I just took a minute to clean out this bore because I noticed this was still kind of sticking, and this part also was still dirty. I must have missed cleaning it when I was cleaning everything else. Anyways, it goes down inside like that. And then this cap goes on. I replaced the O-ring. Unfortunately, this is not an O-ring in the center part. What does the sealing around this rod is a special seal. And again, because I ordered the wrong kit, because I just went by the fact that it said it was for DB2, I did not get that seal. So I'm going to have to just fly right with that in there, the old one, and hope that it doesn't leak too badly. If it does, I'm hoping I might be able to replace this with the pump still on the engine. But I'm kind of doubting it. Before I go any further and I forget all about it, I am going to replace this locking screw. I'm going to put on this little access plate right here, inspection window, with a new gasket. I was going to leave this off, but it now occurs to me that it's almost impossible to actually even see this when it's in this engine, because it sits down in that valley. So I'm sure there were probably other applications where they use this pump where you can actually get to this and make use of it. Now I can install this pivot arm, and this goes with the little adjustment screw facing out. And I did not touch that adjustment because I didn't want to have to potentially deal with having to make that adjustment in the field. Now I'm just reinstalling the C-clip or E-clip, if you prefer. Alright, next up I have to tighten this screw with this set into the proper position. So what I did before I took this off was I noted that with the throttle all the way over to this position, hard stop, that this was in this position, and I scribed this line right here on the center line of this rib and that roller right there. So I'm just going to hold it there and tighten this screw so that it provides the clamping force to keep that in position. Alright, so I'm going to install the new cover gasket and put the cover on, but before I do that, I want to check this right here. This fitting right here is a check valve, and this is responsible for helping to maintain the proper pressure inside this compartment right here. And it's got a glass ball inside of it and a spring, and the way you want to check it is you want to actually push from the back side with a small instrument, and you want to be able to feel that ball move and spring back. And the high idle solenoid is in the way, so rather than take that out, I'm just going to unscrew it from the top here. Well, that thing's in there really tight. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave that alone for now and just assume that it's working. It's pretty easy to identify which one of these gaskets or whatnot in the kit is the correct one for the cover. It's the only one that's a flat band. So getting this flat rubber band that wants to stay in the shape of a O to become a rectangle with rounded corners, well, that's about as much fun as you might think it would be. Alright, so now cover goes on this way, and again we've got this shutdown solenoid deal that we've got to make sure we get correct, otherwise we will have the potential for a runaway. And again, so I'm gonna push this down like so. And now when I push forward, that should, there you go. Spring, see how that's springing back? Well, theoretically, that should be it. One less part to put back in, and that's this spring with this part here that goes right in the nose. Alright. Well, guess we're ready to slap this back in and see whether or not it's going to work. So I reinstalled the injector pump into the motor, only to realize that I had forgotten to install the little pin that is pressed through the hole in the end of the shaft, the throttle shaft, and also the throttle position sensor here. So I'm doing that while in the vehicle. I was able to get the pin in no problem, and now I'm putting this on, and I'm noticing that the way this works is it's actually spring loaded, and as far as where to set this, I can see a ghost outline. I can see a ghost image right there, so that has to go down, and so basically I have to rotate that clockwise to get that to line up with the bolt head, and it's spring loaded, so I have to hold it in that position and then tighten that little bolt.